This is the Sultan Ahmed Park, which sits in the middle of two of Istanbul's most beautiful buildings, the Sultan Ahmed Mosque and the Hagia Sophia. They stand proudly alongside each other, examples of the city's fascinating grandeur. If I can remember correctly, we tried to go to the Hagia Sophia first, but the security man wouldn't let me in, so we went to the Sultan Ahmed Mosque first. The Sultan Ahmed Mosque is also known as the Blue Mosque in the West, and one of the first things you notice is that it isn't really blue. That's because the blue used to refer to the interior design, the Iznik tiles and whatnot. Apparently this is where the word turquoise comes from, literally French for Turk, as French travellers went back home after being mesmerised by the interior of the Blue Mosque. The sense of scale, grandeur, beauty and might is not something that the phone camera can capture. You really have to be here to feel it. Sultan Ahmed was the most touristy mosque of the ones we visited. Loads of people were inside talking and picture snapping, though the system they have here to accommodate all the visitors is pretty good. A section at the back for visitors with a barrier you're asked not to cross unless you're going to pray, for which you go to the front, and the mosque is so big that you end up not being disturbed at the front. Though today it's practically the poster boy of Istanbul, with a lot of people not venturing out of the Sultan Ahmed area and visiting other mosques, the initial construction of the masjid was actually quite controversial. The inside is simply stunning, beyond my articulation abilities. Obviously it won't be the original design from the 1600s, but it's amazing. Only one other mosque we visited could challenge the interior of the Blue Mosque. Commissioned by Sultan Ahmed I, a sultan notable for breaking the Ottoman tradition of fratricide, Sultan Ahmed also broke other traditions. You see, when Ottoman sultans gained victory on the battlefield and gained territory from their enemies, they would often celebrate by building a mosque, which would be also accompanied by a Kullie system, which was essentially a neighbourhood to accompany the mosque. A market, a school, a caravansary where travellers could stay and eat for free for 3 days, a library, things like that. But during Sultan Ahmed's time, the Ottomans were losing battles, not winning them. But the young pious sultan was determined to build a mosque, so made it using money from the Ottomans' treasury. In addition to this, the mosque was made with 6 minarets, and only the Prophet Muhammad's mosque in Mecca had this many. In order to mitigate this controversy, Sultan Ahmed had a 7th minaret built in the Prophet's mosque. So much fascinating history in this city, far too much to cover in a single video. There is so much space in between you and the domes that it's difficult to gauge how big this mosque is from the inside, but it's simply breathtaking. Just look at the size of that pillar. The architectural ingenuity to create such things is beyond me. I can only stare and take it all in. This is the front of the mosque where the main praying area is, where we can get a close-up look of these stained glass looking effects. One thing I noticed was that the Ottoman mosques did a lot with natural lighting. They were built in a way that could allow for a lot of light to come in, and when it got dark they would turn the interior lights on. So it was always cool to visit mosques both in the daytime and the nighttime, as we did on a few occasions. There was a beautiful little model of the Prophet's mosque here too. As mentioned, these information pole things were all over the city. You can pause the video and read it to learn more about the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. In front of the mosque is what used to be a hippodrome, a colosseum of sorts where chariots and entertainment would take place in the Roman times. But it declined into ruin over time, and when the Ottomans took over the city they had no use for it, though didn't build over it. All that is left are these ancient monuments, such as the obelisk of Theodosius, the serpent column and the walled obelisk. And we weren't done yet because we went to the Sultan Ahmed Mosque again. Seeing it lit up was a completely different experience. We looked around again, we prayed, but then we just sat there. Exhausted, but feeling full of energy given to us by the splendour we were taking in. On the way back to the hotel now, and that's when I noticed that the call to prayer, the adhan, was interchanged between the two mosques. Well, not interchanged, but one would do one line and then wait for the other to do theirs, and then he would do his and back and forward like that. This was absolutely brilliant, a great system that gave the calls to prayer synergy. I've been to places where they've had multiple mosques close together and they all do it at similar times and you can't differentiate, but this was a terrific system. I came across the grave of Sultan Ahmed, his son Sultan Murad IV, a very interesting sultan in his own right, and much of Ahmed I's family. All these graves, children's graves as well, was quite a sight.